It's quite a series of topics. The first one is my philosophical obsession. I've written about it repeatedly and so on. And Sean, this is already to provoke you, interrupt me at any point, is what absolutely fascinates me in quantum physics is, again, maybe it's already wrong, I will say, this idea of, to put it in philosophical terms, ontological incompleteness. For example, the point is not we cannot measure at the same time position and movement. That's for me not radical enough. It still means a particle has a measure and the position, we just can't, movement and position, we just can't measure it. But what if in more radical reading, reality is in itself ontologically incomplete? The point is not that if you analyze reality to the end, you will get a complete description with everything at its place and so on and so on. And as far as I can see, now you will ask me, how does this link with my philosophy? Because it's a very unorthodox reading. In my reading, even of Hegel, the result is not you get the whole truth. The final result is that what you thought was just an epistemological obstacle, like we cannot get it all, just one aspect of the other. The final result is when you realize that what appeared to you as a limitation of your knowledge defines already the reality itself. Reality is in itself incomplete. Now I follow debates and I know the problems with this. If she known in the United States, she being Sabine Hossenfelder, the German one, her idea, as I'm sure you know 1,000 times better than me, is super determinism. And basically, her idea is, if I follow it correctly, on Einstein's line. Hidden variables and so on, we just don't know it. Some physicists, quantum, with whom I spoke, not as highly graded as you, insisted that all this focus on not the agent, what triggers the so-called collapse of the wave function, that is a secondary unimportant problem. That you can even, this is the radical tendency, if I got it correctly, that you can define collapse even in an objective way. What comes to my mind are so-called decoherence theories. Or another version is quantity, that as soon as the object is no longer at this subparticle level, but becomes part of our reality, automatically decoherence happens. Now, this brings me to another point. I hope we will have time later to approach it, which is time and space. Do you agree? Because I was informed that this is also one of your topics. Is it true or not that this hidden variables Einstein view is more focused on space as a more primary dimension? Didn't Einstein even at some point propose the theory that what we perceive as time movement, is really just moving along a certain spatial line and so on? On the other hand, there are many others, and for obvious reasons it's closer to me, who claim that time is more radical, primordial. Collapse of wave function, observer, registration, when does it happen? Because I find all different versions, up to the cosmological one, that it's God himself who is the ultimate observer, no reality without God, and to this more modest version, whatever. My first, sorry to go on in this police style, but problem is the standard reproach that I hear and read about many worlds is that one cannot even imagine how to test it with today's knowledge. That it's just an empty hypothesis. It resolves such many paradoxes, blah, blah. But with today's knowledge, we cannot get a clear test. Let me go step by step. My problem with many worlds is that the way you put it, I would love this. Only wave oscillations collapses something that appears blah, blah, blah. But isn't in some sense, although when I say in some sense, I don't mean it in a precise scientific sense, but it seems to me that many words interpretation simply multiplies realities. We lose a special, everything is true, in the sense of all possible variations are true. So and in some sense, what fascinates me, the ontological incompleteness, again disappears. Everything is fully there. The problem is our limited standpoint. Back to the opposite vision, back to Niels Bohr. I was surprised at how, at some level, he is ultra common sense realist. Doesn't he repeatedly say, all that we can observe, all that exists out there is our common reality. Everything that we measure, it shows on a screen with measuring apparatus in our common reality. So he insists that all these wave function formulas and so on, they have no ontological status in the sense that we have to presuppose another type of reality. He insists that it simply, and here he escapes, I think, too easily into some kind of naive epistemologism. He says these are just our mathematical means, formulas, or sometimes he even says language, symbolic fictions, to account for how did we come from A to B. But both A and B are firmly here. So does he ever try to make a step further? And no, I will be very precise here. I am bluffing, but not substantially, because what would then in this view prove, I of course follow this with fascination, these years, you remember, the three guys, the old French one, Alain Aspect, and the Zeilinger, an Austrian man, and the third one is American, I think, or whatever, no? What did they really prove? Isn't nonetheless in what they say a little bit more realist tendency, that in some sense there must be a level of reality which reality, whatever you call it, out there, that works in a different way from our ordinary reality. Another thing, usually what they did is, with these experiments, is usually read as Bohr's victory against Einstein. But isn't it more complex? Because they didn't prove that there is pure contingency. No, they only proved that if you go to particle A, this, then the correlated particle B down, up. But this only means that there is no link at the level of speed of light or lower. There still can be a link at a higher level. Higher, okay, outside, no? What I worry is not so much this direct New Age spiritual reappropriation. If I were to be a ruler of a Stalinist empire, if you say, as I read somewhere, some Indian idiot, not Native American, India, said, oh, but all that Zeilinger and those guys proved is not we Indians know from Upanishad, from Bhagavad, all that bullshit. Even the movie, I haven't seen it, but it didn't prevent me to write a review of it. Oppenheimer goes into this, all those quoting Bhagavad Gita, "I am the destroyer of the world," whatever. So even Bohr was not clear here when he what's his principle? No, sorry, I'm so confused now. Of complementarity, yeah. He had this tendency to falsely universalize it in a pseudo-spiritualist way. For example, he said, it's not just particles, it's also, he said, to the Bible, then wisdom versus knowledge and all that bullshit and so on. So this is where we materialists, intellectual police, no? We need some agency to say, the moment you mention this, do you know what I give you here? One-way ticket, first class to Gulag for 10 years. No, but seriously, isn't this, that's why why quantum physics interests me. Precisely because it breaks the confines of our ordinary notion of reality, it is always exposed to this pseudo-spiritualist danger. So my problem here is, I read this and I learn also from people like you that golden era of Copenhagen, shut up, don't think, calculate, is over. We are returning to what traditionally is called ontological, metaphysical questions. My temptation is, and please tell me from what you know, am I totally wrong or not? What fascinates me in this Bell's theorem, no? What if this element of maybe even contingency is not the right term? Just this openness, not full determinism, and so on. Are we back with many worlds in determinism, or is this openness of the universe maintained? It's a wonderful idea for me that, even if you look at details, no, it's not. You discover deep, at some point, reality is blank open. I would like, as a philosopher, for non-scientific interest, to say this. Hit me.